I woke from a dead sleep and rubbed my eyes, taking in the unfamiliar bedroom, the clothes scattered across the floor. I glanced at the beautiful woman beside me, and a dull ache in my lower back reminded me exactly what had happened last night. A look at my phone told me it was 9 a.m. Time for work. I slid out of bed and started pulling on my clothes. Shoes in hand, I was tiptoeing toward the door when a sharp cry came from the bed. "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" My name is Leo Garcia. I'm 28 years old, and until last night, I've been single for all of them. To make rent and get a foothold in this city, I hustle like a man possessed. In today's hyper-competitive gig economy, my job description is fluid. I deliver for DoorDash, drive for Uber, work as a medical escort for the elderly. Hell, I'll even pose as a fake date for a wedding if the price is right. Whatever gig I take, I give it 110%. I got a 99% 5-star rating, and happy customers are what keep me going. Of course, I have my principles. Nothing illegal. The night before, I'd gotten a delivery request from the Upper East Side. Orders from that part of town are rare. I remember my buddy Mike got one a while back, delivered to some kid who tipped him $1,000 cash. The thought of that made me giddy. This was my last delivery of the night. Maybe I'd get lucky, too. I gunned my e-bike toward the restaurant. The customer had ordered $700 worth of seafood, a seafood tower and platters of grilled lobster. For a guy like me, that was an insane amount of money. I carefully checked the order, secured it in my thermal bag, and took off. I pride myself on being fast, but steady. The food always arrives hot and perfectly intact. 20 minutes later, I was standing in front of a penthouse apartment in a gleaming high-rise. In this city, the more money you have, the higher up you live. The rich hate the idea of anyone living above them, of being stepped on. Me? I'm an ant. I've lived in basement apartments you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. I knocked on the door, balancing the heavy bag. A long moment passed with no answer. I called the customer, but it went straight to voicemail. I was about to leave the food, snap a picture, and send a text when the door swung open. A beautiful face appeared. Long, wavy hair cascaded around her shoulders, and a pair of intoxicating, almond-shaped eyes, hazy with drink, met mine. Her plump, cherry-red lips were slightly parted. Her cheeks were flushed the color of ripe apples as she leaned against the doorframe. "Bring it in for me," she slurred. I followed her into the apartment, my thermal bag clutched in my arms. The place was dripping with luxury. A crystal chandelier with gold trim hung from the ceiling. A massive French leather sofa was also accented with gold, the glare practically blinding me. I set the food down on the kitchen island, ready to leave, but she raised a slender hand and pointed a finger at me. "Have a drink with me," she said, her voice a low murmur. Looking around the enormous apartment, empty except for the two of us, I hesitated. I don't think of the good idea. At my refusal, her eyes welled up with tears. "Even a delivery guy won't have a drink with me," she sobbed. "I'm such a failure." Seeing her so heartbroken, and with my customer is always right mantra ringing in my ears, I hesitated for a long moment before finally nodding. She swayed as she went to the wine fridge and pulled out a bottle of 30-year-old Bordeaux, pouring me a glass. I took a small sip. It was incredible. I thought to myself, this isn't wine I'm drinking. It's straight-up cash. Through her tears, she told me her story. That day, the private investigator had sent her another batch of photos, this time of her husband with woman number 58. Theirs was a business marriage, she explained, but for her, it had been love at first sight. If she hadn't married him, his corporate empire would have collapsed during the 2008 financial crisis. But he had an old flame, the one that got away. After their wedding night, he'd barely touched her in 5 years. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Are they prettier than me?" she asked, pulling up the photos on her phone. I glanced at the pictures of the various women. "You look like a goddess," I said, my voice full of conviction. "They don't even come close. Guess your husband needs his eyes checked." A small, wet laugh escaped her lips. "You're right. He's blind. Completely blind." When she smiled, I smiled back. She poured another glass and then another. I couldn't help but suggest she slow down. That just made her start crying again. A year into our marriage, his old flame finally moved overseas. I thought he'd finally settle down, but instead, the women started changing even faster. Watching her, so utterly broken, I didn't know what to do besides hand her tissues. This was their private mess. She kept talking, her words a long, rambling monologue. I've been working all day, and now, with the wine hitting me, my head felt heavy, my eyelids like lead weights. I don't know how much time passed. Through a hazy fog, I felt a soft pressure on my lips. My blood ignited, a jolt of electricity shooting through my entire body. I opened my eyes to see those intoxicating, hazy eyes inches from mine, her long lashes fluttering. My brain short-circuited. Blank. Instinctively, my hand reached out, touching the softest part of her cheek. A current ran through me. It was like standing in the ocean, wave after wave washing over me, again and again. The waves sang a siren's song, and I was adrift in a vast sea. I was soaked, drowning, but all I wanted was to explore the deepest, darkest secrets of the abyss. The release of 28 years of coiled tension was explosive. We tumbled across the opulent living room that night, a tangle of limbs and desperate need. We went again and again. On the fifth time, I heard her whisper in my ear, Harrison. Okay, please stop. Harrison Vance, the famous CEO, her husband, the name she'd been cursing all night. Not yet satisfied, I finally let her go. She fell into a deep, immediate sleep. I woke up and started to get dressed, planning my escape. But then I heard her scream, "Who are you?" I turned back to see her face, a mask of terror. "I delivered your food last night. You asked me to stay. Don't you remember?" Maybe it was the soreness in her body that jogged a few fragmented memories of the night before. A deep blush spread across her face, a mixture of shame and fury. "I was drunk. You took advantage of me. Look, you were the one who kissed me first. You know I'm a normal guy," I explained as patiently as I could. The customer is always right. After a few moments, she seemed to calm down. "Wait here," she said. She put on a robe and, walking with a slight tremor in her legs, went into another room. She returned holding a debit card. "There's $10,000 on this," she said, handing it to me. "I never want to see you again, and you will not speak of last night to anyone. Ever. After all, I had gotten something out of this." I felt a little guilty. "You don't have to do that. Don't worry, I know how to keep my mouth shut." She looked at me, her eyes filled with distrust. "Is it not enough? I'm telling you right now, if you think you can blackmail me for more, you can forget it." Seeing how she automatically assumed the worst of people, I knew arguing was pointless. I took the card. "Fine, I'll take it. We'll never see each other again." I couldn't help but steal one last look at her stunning figure, her beautiful face. A pang of regret hit me. I still didn't even know her name. She gestured sharply toward the door and turned her back on me. Time to quit while I was ahead. It's a small world, I thought. Maybe our paths would cross again someday. The nights, activities had left me exhausted, but I headed to my first gig of the day anyway. If I wanted to get closer to my dream, I couldn't afford to slack off. My phone was blowing up with notifications from the delivery guys' WhatsApp group. They all knew I'd scored an order in the rich part of town. They were dying to know if a guy with my perfect service record got a big tip. I suppressed the urge to brag. I'd been paid for my silence. If I told this story to the 20 or 30 guys in the group, it would be all over the city in a second. I had to maintain some professional integrity. I just told them the customer tipped me $50. If I said nothing, they wouldn't believe me. Any more than that, and they'd get jealous. It was less than Mike's big score, which was perfect. I told them I'd buy the next round of beers, and just like that, the topic was dropped. Life went on, a blur of deliveries and gigs. But late at night in the quiet of my tiny apartment, my mind would drift back to that one night of unbridled passion. It had been 2 months. I wondered how she was doing. Maybe it's true that if you think about something long enough, the universe answers. The gears of fate started turning, and soon, we were set to meet again. I'm 5'10", clean-cut, and decent-looking. My only real flaw is that I come from nothing. One day, I got a booking from a girl named Jessica Miller. She wanted to hire me for a Sunday night to attend her college reunion. My role, her boyfriend, a globetrotting venture capitalist from an old money family named Andre DeLuca. The pay was $500 for the evening. Better than delivering food, and a hell of a lot less stressful. I agreed instantly and met her an hour early that Sunday. She had long, straight black hair and round, almond-shaped eyes under perfectly arched brows. When she smiled, she had dimples. She was cute in a wholesome way. Looking at her made me think of the stunning woman from that night. Two different kinds of beauty, but in terms of raw, sensual appeal, there was no contest. Jessica seemed pleased with me and gave me a quick rundown of her family history. Then she handed me a designer suit and a limited edition watch. "They're rented," she warned. "Be careful with them. I have to return them." I took the suits silently and assured her she would get her money's worth. When I changed, her eyes lit up. "If only you were the real deal," she muttered under her breath. I knew the story. She was dating some ancient, ugly president of a publicly traded company. She was probably his mistress and was too embarrassed to bring him to the reunion. The luxury car waiting for us at the curb was borrowed from him. Since I'd driven plenty of high-end cars as an Uber driver, I handled the Mercedes S-Class like a pro. I even showed off a little, earning an admiring look from her. My ego swelled. This was going to be an easy 5-star review. I pulled a perfect drift into a tight parking spot at the hotel, then got out to open her door for her. She took my offer hand, beaming. "Best money I ever spent," she whispered. She linked her arm through mine as we walked into a private dining room called the Gilded Lily. 7 or 8 people were already there. They spotted us and immediately waved us over. "Jessica, it's been so long. You look amazing," a woman with a shoulder-length bob gushed, grabbing her hand. "Seriously, we all look so old, and she hasn't changed a bit," another woman with a ponytail chimed in. Jessica laughed, soaking in the compliments. "Oh, please. Dana, Crystal, you guys look exactly the same." "Well, back in school, it was always Isabella and Jessica who were the prettiest," a heavier-set woman added. At the mention of that name, Jessica's smile tightened, a flash of annoyance crossing her face. The woman named Dana quickly jumped in. "Who knows what Isabella Romano even looks like these days? It's been years." Crystal added her support. "She hasn't even shown up yet, but she's too scared to." Hearing this, Jessica's mood visibly improved. A man in a casual blazer looked me over. "So what do you do?" I launched in my well-rehearsed spiel, embellishing Andre de Luca's identity with even more impressive details. A chorus of oohs and ahs filled the room. "Out in the world, you are who you say you are?" Jessica casually placed her purse on the table, opened it, and pretended to look for her phone. The other women immediately noticed the limited edition designer bag and swarmed around it, chattering excitedly. Just then, the door swung open and a voice drifted in. "Sorry, I'm late." Everyone looked up. A woman with long, wavy hair, wearing a stunning black dress, stood in the doorway. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on her in stunned admiration. Tonight, she wasn't the disheveled, drunken woman from the penthouse. Her makeup was flawless, her almond eyes sparkling with a dangerous allure. She radiated an indescribable confidence. It was her, Isabella Romano. I never expected to see her here. I felt a jolt of surprise, quickly followed by the awkwardness of my situation. Jessica kicked me under the table, snapping me out of my trance. Next to Isabella, Jessica suddenly seemed plain. The group of women, who had been fawning over Jessica moments before, now flocked to Isabella, showering her with praise. During dinner, someone asked why she hadn't brought her husband. She just smiled and said he was too busy. As people around me introduced me as Andre de Luca, her eyes met mine across the table. She froze for a split second, then quickly looked away, pretending not to know me as she laughed with someone else. But I saw it, a flicker of panic in her eyes. It made sense. We shared a secret. Even if she knew I was a fraud, she wouldn't dare expose me. Later, I saw Isabella head to the restroom. A moment later, Jessica signaled to Dana and Crystal, and they followed her out. 20 minutes passed, and they hadn't returned. I made an excuse about needing the restroom myself and left the room. As I got closer to the women's restroom, I heard Jessica's voice, sharp and cruel, completely different from her earlier persona. "Look at you, dressed like a total slut. Some things never change." Seriously, another voice sneered. "So desperate for attention. You probably want every man in the world drooling over you. It's obvious you have no self-respect. Any man who marries you is just asking to be cheated on." The three of them had Isabella cornered. She'd remained silent, but at the mention of being cheated on, she snapped. She slapped Jessica hard across the face. It was the same thing in college. Isabella's voice trembled with rage. "Just because I won prom queen by a few votes, you hated me. You spread rumors, you turned everyone against me. All these years, and you're still the same pathetic, jealous bitch." Jessica clutched her cheek, her face contorted in fury. She lunged, grabbing a handful of Isabella's hair. "I'm pregnant," Isabella cried out. "If anything happens to this baby, you'll all be responsible." Jessica just laughed coldly. "Dana and Crystal are my witnesses. If you fall, it's because you were clumsy. It has nothing to do with us." With that, all three of them ganged up on Isabella, pushing her to the floor. She was pregnant. A cold knot formed in my stomach. Was it mine? This was getting ugly. I stood in the doorway and yelled, "Jessica, come out here. I need to talk to you." Lost in their screaming and clawing, they didn't seem to hear me. I shoved my phone into my pocket, making sure it was recording. Then I burst into the restroom and pulled them apart. Isabella was curled up on the floor, her hair a mess, her dress torn. I scooped her up in my arms, ignoring the shocked faces of the three women, and walked out. Jessica screamed after me, reminding me to remember my place. I didn't look back. I carried Isabella upstairs to a hotel room and told her to rest. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls from Jessica. I went downstairs, retrieved my own clothes from the car, and changed out of the suit, folding it neatly and putting it in a bag. I took off the watch, put it with the car keys, and went back to the private dining room. As I approached the door, I could hear Jessica inside, sobbing. She was telling everyone that the seductress Isabella had stolen away her wealthy, globe-trotting boyfriend. The whole room had rallied around her, and they were all condemning us. I strode back into the room as if I owned the place. Everyone stared at me, dumbfounded. I walked right up to Jessica and handed her the bag with the suit and the keys. She looked at me, her face a mixture of fear and guilt. "Ms. Miller," I said with a polite smile, "don't worry about tonight's bill. And if you ever need me to play a part for you again, you know where to find me." A wave of understanding, followed by snickers and derisive laughter, rippled through the room. I turned and walked out. As soon as I was out the door, I got a notification, a 1-star review, and a complaint. Because of the contract violation, I had to pay Jessica a hefty penalty fee that wiped out my earnings for the week. But for the first time, I didn't regret it. Normally, I would have stayed out of it, minded my own business. But Isabella, her reappearance had completely upended my life. I went out and bought a new designer dress, then took it back to her hotel room. When she came out wearing it, a simple white dress that somehow looked stunning against her vibrant, sensual beauty, she finally smiled at me. "Thank you," she said softly. I hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in my mind. "You're pregnant, is it?" She cut me off immediately. "It's my husband's." I felt a sharp sting of disappointment, quickly followed by a wave of relief. At least I wouldn't have that responsibility. "Still, I should thank you," she said, pulling out her phone. "How much do you want for this?" I was speechless. She thought I'd helped her for money. Our meeting was a coincidence. "You don't owe me anything." She looked surprised. "A man who doesn't love money? I don't believe it." She tapped a few times on her screen. "I just wired another 20 grand to the account linked to that debit card. Consider it a thank you." Seeing her determination, I didn't argue. "How are you? Are you okay?" "My husband has been very attentive ever since I got pregnant," she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "But that's not your concern. I hope we don't see each other again." The finality in her eyes left me feeling empty, lost. It was as if the passionate woman from that night never existed. But I respected her wishes and left the room. A few days later, her husband's assistant contacted me. He wanted to meet at a private club. When I arrived at the designated suite, I immediately recognized the man in the center of the room. It was the CEO, Harrison Vance, wearing glasses and an air of pure arrogance. Flanking him were 7 or 8 muscle-bound guys who looked like they broke legs for a living. Even for a guy like me who'd seen his share of things, the scene was intimidating. I felt a knot of anxiety, wondering how much he knew. And sitting right next to him, a smug look on her face, was Jessica Miller. "Mr. Vance," she said in a syrupy, sweet voice, "you have every right to be angry. A business titan like you, and she dares to cheat on you? It's disgusting." Harrison's face was dark. He threw a stack of photos onto the table. "Someone sent me these. Take a look." I picked up the photos. They were pictures of me carrying Isabella out of the restroom that night. Just that. A huge sigh of relief escaped me. "I'm not a man who makes baseless accusations," Harrison said, lighting a cigar, his eyes unreadable. "You'd better have a good explanation." Jessica draped herself over his arm. "Harrison, why even let him explain? My 2 friends and I saw everything. Isabella even said she loves a man with a six-pack." As Harrison's expression grew darker, I calmly pulled out my phone and handed it to him. "Mr. Vance, maybe you should watch this first." He shot me a skeptical look before taking the phone. The screen lit up with the video from the restroom. The 3 women cornering Isabella, their vicious words, and their plan to attack her even after she said she was pregnant. Jessica's face went pale. She stared at the phone in disbelief. A small smile played on my lips as I leaned forward. "Mr. Vance, Jessica Miller hired me to pose as her boyfriend that night. I stumbled upon that scene by accident and started recording because it felt wrong. I wasn't going to get involved, but when they went after a pregnant woman, I had to step in." The situation was crystal clear. Harrison handed my phone back. He turned to Jessica, his voice dangerously low. "You lying bitch. You have some nerve trying to play me." He waved his hand, and 2 of his thugs grabbed a screaming Jessica and dragged her out of the room. From the looks of it, she was in for a very bad time. She tried to ruin us and ended up ruining herself. Serve her right. Harrison's expression softened as he looked at me. I'm a man who rewards loyalty and punishes betrayal. You saved my wife. From now on, if you ever need anything, you tell me. I've got your back. Not want to press my luck, I told Mr. Vance I had to get to a gig and left the club as fast as I could. It felt like the city had shrunk. A few days later, I was driving for Uber when I got a pickup request. It was Harrison Vance again. He and a sweet-faced, innocent-looking young woman got into the back seat. He was drunk, but he recognized me immediately. He must have been in a good mood because he got chatty, remarking on what a coincidence it was. It was his company's annual party, and everyone, including his driver, was wasted, which was why he called an Uber. He gestured to the woman beside him. This is my first love, he slurred proudly. She's back from overseas. I smiled at him in the rearview mirror and offered a few polite compliments. On the drive, I overheard Harrison say with genuine joy, "Chloe, it's so good to have you back." His voice was stripped of the harshness I'd heard at the club. It was incredibly gentle. But the woman, Chloe, seemed unhappy. Years ago, you messaged me and promised you'd divorce her this year if I came back. Well, I'm back, and what's the reality? Harrison seemed conflicted. I was going to, I swear. But a month or so ago, she asked me to come home. We had a few glasses of wine. I blacked out, and then she got pregnant with my child. Seeing the displeasure on Chloe's face, he quickly held up 3 fingers. I swear, Chloe, I haven't touched her in years. A classmate of ours told me, you change girlfriends faster than you change socks, Chloe retorted. That was only because you left. I was angry, so I looked for substitutes. They all looked a little bit like you, he pleaded, taking her hand. She didn't pull away. I smirked to myself. Men, always a million excuses, and women are always willing to believe them. But she's carrying my family's heir now, Harrison continued. I can't just throw her out for no reason. At that, Chloe snatched her hand back. Fine, then you have a nice life with her. I'm flying back out in a few days, and this time, I'm not coming back. Harrison panicked. Forgetting I was even there, he wrapped his arms around her. Don't go, he begged. I'll talk to her. Just don't go. Hearing that, Chloe stopped struggling. In the rearview mirror, I saw her relax in his embrace. I knew all the ugly details of Isabella's home life, but I was powerless to do anything about it. After a few days of feeling restless, I called up some colleagues to grab wings and beer. Going home early just meant staring at the 4 walls of my rental, letting my mind wander. We hung out late into the night until one by one, the married guys got called home by their wives. That left just me, a lone wolf riding my bike through the deserted streets under the moonlight. As I was crossing the Williamsburg Bridge, I saw a car screech to a halt. A figure scrambled out, climbed over the railing, and leaped into the river below. I swerved my bike around and rode back, thinking my drunk eyes were playing tricks on me. A man stumbled out of the car in a panic, yelling over the railing, "You actually did it. Why would you do that?" I looked closer. It was Harrison Vance. So who jumped? That innocent-looking girl, Chloe. I ran over and looked down at the dark water, where someone was flailing, sending up frantic splashes. I had no intention of being a hero. If he asked, I'd just say I couldn't swim. Mr. Vance, who jumped? Damn it, it was Isabella. I mentioned a divorce, and she just... Hearing her name, my blood ran cold. The alcohol buzz vanished. He saw the horrified look on my face and must have thought I was just in shock. I'm calling my guys to come down here. Do you know how to swim? Before he could finish, I vaulted over the railing without a second thought and plunged into the churning water below. I could hear Harrison's voice fading as I fell. It's got to be a 30-foot drop. He just jumped without a word. Growing up, I was the kid who was always in the water, the best swimmer in my neighborhood. Tonight, that skill was finally paying off. But the alcohol in my system made it a struggle. By the time I reached a barely conscious Isabella and dragged her to shore, I collapsed, and everything went black. I woke up in a private hospital room. The furnishings were as luxurious as a 5-star hotel. As soon as I opened my eyes, one of Harrison's muscle-bound bodyguards made a call. A short while later, Mr. Vance himself walked in. He came to my bedside. You saved her. Isabella is going to be fine, thanks to you. That's good, I managed to say, as long as she's okay. Still, jumping from that height without a moment's hesitation, that takes some serious guts. His tone was a mix of curiosity, disbelief, and suspicion. I glanced at the 5 or 6 bodyguards standing behind him, all of them covered in elaborate dragon tattoos. Does this guy have enemies? I wondered. Why does he need so much protection? I looked him straight in the eye. Mr. Vance, I'm not going to lie. I have a great deal of respect for you. I was trying to impress you. I was hoping you might see something in me. He listened to my answer and then laughed. That's honest. If you told me you had no agenda, I wouldn't have believed you. All right, from now on, you work for me. Stick with me, and I'll make you a rich man. I looked at his crew behind him and nodded eagerly, thanking him for the opportunity. From that day on, I became Harrison Vance's right-hand man, his personal fixer. I was smooth, efficient, and completely dedicated, and I quickly earned his absolute trust. One afternoon in the boardroom, Harrison scanned the faces of his executives without saying a word. The silence was thick with tension. One by one, they all lowered their heads. He sighed and dismissed them. Seeing how stressed he was, I poured him a cup of coffee. "What's got you so wound up, Mr. Vance?" He propped his head up with his hand. "Leo, you've seen it all. I finally get Isabella to calm down, and now Chloe's threatening to leave the country again. The thing is, she's pregnant with my child, too. I'm completely trapped. Mr. Vance, in your heart, who carries more weight?" He took a sip of coffee, not needing to think. "With Isabella, it's guilt. Her family's company did bail me out, and now she's pregnant. But Chloe, I've loved her since we were kids. I can't let her go." An idea started to form in my mind. "Mr. Vance, I've saved your wife twice now. Why don't you let me try talking to her?" Harrison's eyes lit up. "That's right. With that history between you, she might actually listen to you." He clapped me on the shoulder. "If you can pull this off, I'll be eternally grateful." I nodded. "Consider it done. Wait for my good news." I met Isabella at a quiet cafe. She was 5 months pregnant now, her belly showing. She walked toward me and sat down. She wasn't wearing any makeup, but her skin was still flawless and radiant. Her sharp, intelligent eyes fixed on me. "You saved me again. I never had the chance to thank you properly. When I saw it was you, I jumped. All I could think about was hoping you'd be okay." My words seemed to move her. "Harrison sent you, didn't he?" she said calmly. "I hear you're working for him now. Is he treating you well?" "Very well. But yes, he asked me to come talk to you today. To persuade you." I watched her expression carefully. To my surprise, she was perfectly composed. "He wants a divorce again, doesn't he?" I didn't confirm or deny it. Sometimes, if being together is just torture, it's better to let go. After I jumped off that bridge, she said, her voice even after facing death, I saw things clearly. Going. Then, she turned to look out the window. "I still think about that night," she said softly. "Do you?" 3 days later, Harrison took me out for drinks to celebrate. After a few rounds, he tried to press the keys to a brand new BMW into my hand as a thank you gift. I refused several times, but he was insistent, so I finally pocketed them. He told me that when he'd brought up the divorce, Isabella had broken down completely, sobbing her heart out. But, she'd said, for his happiness with Chloe, she was willing to step aside. Seeing her like that, pregnant and heartbroken, I felt like a monster, Harrison confessed. But it's done now. The least I can do is make sure she's compensated generously. Just then, Chloe arrived at our table. Harrison shot me a look, warning me not to say anything in front of her. I gave a subtle nod of understanding. Chloe sat down and wrapped her arm around his. "What's wrong? You got the divorce, but you don't look happy. Drinking so much." No. I'm just so happy we can finally be together. Just celebrating a little," he said quickly. Satisfied, Chloe nodded. She raised a glass to me. "And I have to thank you, Leo, for all your help." I quickly raised my glass to meet hers. "Mrs. Vance, please don't mention it. It was my duty." Hearing me call her Mrs. Vance, she beamed. She looked me up and down, then turned to Harrison. "You know, Isabella is pregnant and all alone now. It's not going to be easy for her to remarry. What she ends up with some abusive guy? Your child would suffer. I'm giving her a massive alimony settlement," Harrison said. "If she remarries, no one would dare mistreat them." "You can't be so sure," Chloe countered. "A friend of mine, her son was beaten to death by his stepfather. She lost her mind." Her words clearly worried Harrison. "So what should I do?" "Chloe, to be honest, I still feel incredibly guilty about the whole thing." Watching this business titan, a man who could command boardrooms without flinching, be so indecisive when it came to women, I knew Chloe was up to something. Her eyes darted toward me and then back to Harrison. "I think Leo would be perfect." Harrison looked up at me, confused. She continued. "First, he's a good-looking, capable guy. Second, he saved Isabella's life. She owes him. And third, he's your most trusted friend. He would never mistreat them." My heart leaped, but I quickly waved my hands in protest. No, I couldn't possibly. She was my friend's wife. "So what? They're divorced now," Chloe pressed. "If you marry her, Harrison will know she and the baby are in good hands. He can finally have some peace of mind." She watched Harrison's face for his reaction. He thought for a moment. "Actually, that's not a bad idea." Seeing him agree, Chloe's smile widened. "She's newly divorced and 5 months pregnant. She needs someone to take care of her. Leo, You should start spending more time with her. One thing will lead to another. Seeing my feigned reluctance, Harrison chimed in. Go on, brother. Anything you buy for her, any expenses, just tell me. I'll reimburse you. Honestly, I feel a lot better knowing you were the one looking after her. With both of them pressuring me, I finally, reluctantly, agreed. Soon after Harrison and Chloe's wedding, Isabella liquidated all her assets and moved to Europe. Harrison assumed she was heartbroken over his marriage and needed to get away. He gave me a substantial sum of money and entrusted her to my care. You're the only brother I trust, he told me, his voice thick with emotion. You're single, no parents to look after. Go to Europe with her. Be there for her. It would give me peace of mind. For the sake of our friendship, you have to promise me you'll treat that child well. I promised him I would. He was overjoyed. A brother for a day is a brother for life. If you ever get the chance, you have to come back and visit me. I nodded, pretending to be moved, and booked my flight. A few months later, I was sitting in a sprawling villa overlooking Lake Como, holding a newborn baby whose features were starting to look more and more like my own. I looked over at Isabella, who was lounging on the sofa. What's going on? I asked. She burst into a fit of laughter, a rich, melodic sound that filled the room. Whose baby do you think it is, silly? Then why were you crying your eyes out when you agreed to the divorce? She gestured around at the magnificent villa, the priceless art on the walls. Without that little performance, do you think I would have walked away with my half of the fortune he built with my family's money? I smiled and walked over to her, wrapping my arms around her. So that was her plan all along. You really are a cunning one.